Good morning. Welcome back to the live stream. This is the World Junior Ultimate Championships of 2018. We're here in Waterloo. You're taking a look at our showcase field presented to you by Cut Camps. And this morning we have Germany again. They're facing off against the Australian under-20 women. And we've got an exciting game for you. Australia, the 5th seed in the pool, Germany, the 4th seed in the pool. This is going to be a really closely contested match. We're really excited to see what these two teams can bring. I'm Naomi Redmond, joined today by David Lewis, and we're really excited to bring you this game today.
Yeah, Naomi, this is going to be a great game. The way the pools work on the women's side is there are 6 teams in this pool. 3 will go through to power pools. We're probably looking at the Canadians and the Colombians being 1 and 2 going through in some order. And so these other teams are all fighting it out for that other spot in the pool play. So this is an important game for both teams.
Absolutely. And we have Australia starting out on offense, putting out a vertical stack. Germany on defense. Throw to the break side to start things off. An unfortunate turnover there. Germany is going to get a chance. This German defensive line looking to the end zone right away, but that throw a little bit out of the hands of Malin Luder, a little bit too much. We were talking about in the last stream, we just streamed Japan versus Australia men. The wind is started picking up. If you're watching at home, the wind is moving from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. So that was a downwind throw, pretty tough to calibrate that to make sure that there's enough lift for the player to run onto.
And we'll watch that connection before. Malween in the stream game last night was often doing those deep strikes, so we'll keep looking for her to be making those strikes during this game.
So Australia back on offense here. Their O-line has another chance to hold. Hugging the sideline. Nice grab. And a big throw out to space. And a nice grab. That's number 16, Kaya Wea. But an unfortunate turnover. A little bit too much excitement right on the sideline. But unfortunately, looks like there's a call back at the throw. I believe that's where the huck happened. So throw's going to go back.
As sometimes happens in Ultimate, everyone gets so excited and everyone's energy is focused down the field. Meanwhile, way back up the field, 2 people are standing talking about a call that they know is going to bring the disc back, and back it comes.
And it looks like the hand signals there. It looks like a foul with no contest. So I wonder maybe the Australian player stepped into her mark a little bit, and it was actually an offensive foul that was called.
So now the Australians get a break. They get it back, and they're going to try and hold again.
It's Holly Reeve in the middle.
That was unfortunate. It looked like Kaya Wea stumbled a little bit as she was reaching for that disc.
And that looks like it's going to go out of bounds. Both teams here, I think they're showing a little bit of nerves. I think maybe a little bit excited to be on the big screen. Maybe a little bit. It's their first. It's Australia's first game, Belgium's second game, or sorry, Germany's second game. But still a little bit exciting. I think both teams have a lot on the line, and I think both teams really need to dial things in here.
Yeah, certainly it's for the Australians. Their first game, time to get your legs out. They've come a long way. They did have some training camps, but they really need to just play a few points and get their legs under them.
A nice inside shot by Holly Reeve. And a run through D, but it's caught up. That's Kaya Wea again, and she throws it into the end zone. That's an Australian score. They're going to open up this game 1-0 over Germany.
That was a nice heads-up play by Kaya again on that play. When we teach Ultimate at younger age, always try and catch the disc. Sometimes when you just try and bat the disc on defense, bad things can happen, and that's exactly what happened there. Australia able to retain possession and then score to hold on that first point.
Absolutely, and I think it is important to call out the German defense there. They did cause a lot of pressure, and it really is the defensive line's job, not necessarily to score, but to just make it really, really hard for the opposing team to score. So because they were able to slow down, that really tired out the Australian O-line. They had to work. There were 3 or 4 turnovers in that point, which made the Australian team have to work that much harder. And so hopefully they can calibrate both teams, the German D-line as well. They can clean things up a little bit, tighten up their throws, really set themselves up before they look downfield, and that'll be good for the game moving forward.
Yeah, as you say, that's kept the Australian offense out there a long time. Now we get our first look at the German offense. They were very strong at the beginning of the game against Canada last night, with Ava Mueller playing a central role. Be interesting to see how this how they do against I think not quite as athletic a defensive team in the Australian women.
On an unfortunate drop there by Franziska Meyer. Unfortunate. We did see Ava Mueller in the handler spot there. Yesterday we saw her a lot, starting off in a cutter spot and then taking on a heavy throwing role. But Australia going to put one deep right away, but as we said earlier, that's the downwind end zone. A little bit too much mustard on that throw, and it's going to sail right out of bounds.
Yeah, they're going to, anytime you're playing on a field for the first time and you're excited, it's your first game, you've had all this energy is going on, they're just got a little bit too much on their throws, and hopefully they'll be able to adjust as the game goes on. Certainly the cutter was open, the throw was there, it just needed to be just a little too much mustard on it there. So we see again, Ava Mueller is, again, in an initiating cut position. They're running the same horizontal offense they were running last night against the Canadians.
And a huge throw. Unfortunately, just a little bit too fast for Rebecca Ryman. Again, another key player on this Australian O-line. Part of the trio, I would say, Ava Mueller, Lena Sheffer, and Rebecca Ryman, 3 sort of key players on the O-line. They were running a lot of miles for the German team last night, and hopefully they were able to get some rest, and they're able to show this Australians team their stuff today.
Really nice defense
Good
from the Germans
defense
here.
And an inside shot, finding lots of space. That's number 8, Lucy Deller. And intercepted. That's Lena Sheffer setting up a poach right on the open side. And a beautiful throw from Ava Mueller. No one was able to pick up Lena Sheffer there, and able to go right away into the end zone, and lots of celebration from the German team.
Nice play by the 2 German women there. They had only one defender back. They did exactly what you're supposed to do, which is split the defender. The defender had to choose to go one way. Ava Mueller made a nice fake and had an easy throw for the score. It'll be interesting to see how Ava does at the sort of near the end of the game against Canada last night. She was getting stretched out. She had to come off at one point, was getting stretched out for cramps. So it's warm here. There's a bit of breeze, but it's full sunshine, and so it'll be interesting to see if she is still feeling the effects from last night, where she played an awful lot of ultimate.
And it is really tough. It's a long tournament, and for a lot of these players out here, not with as much adult supervision, someone telling them to get their potassium, eat a banana, have a drink of water. So sometimes it's tough to be accountable for yourself. But hopefully they have a sort of a buddy system on the team, make sure everyone's getting food, putting on sunscreen. If anyone's watching at home, tell your friends to put on sunscreen, because it's a little bit cloudy here, but you can definitely get a little bit too much heat. So we'll see as the tournament goes on. It's a long tournament, so you really have to take care of your body. And an unfortunate turnover by Australia. Germany going to pick up. That's number 17 with the disc, Charlotte Schall. To 15, Thea Prince. Germany right on the doorstep. back to Shaw and into the end zone. That's number 49, Annika Kienle, and really patient offense by Germany.
And that's nice. That's a break for the Germans. They scored, went down on defense, and got the turn right away with some really solid defense. And then, as you said, showed some good patience on the goal line, working it back and forth and waiting until they had an easy open throw for the score to make sure they took advantage of the solid defense that they played. You know, both these teams don't have huge rosters. I know the Canadian teams both have 28 players, which is the maximum allowable under the WIFDF rules. Australia has 20, and I think the Germans are at 21. They've both come from a long way away. I know the Australians came via LA and San Francisco. I think they did some training in both those places. They ended up picking up a game, I think, just completely coincidentally against NILAC, a women's team from San Francisco, when they're in the Bay Area. But they've come a long way. They arrived here on Friday, and they're 20 players. They're going to have to manage their roster over the course of this week and really know when they need to play as hard as they can. And there may be other games where they selectively choose maybe not to put everyone out there just to keep their legs for the games that they either know that they have chances in. These teams the Germans have already played the Canadians. Both of these guys are going to have trouble with the Canadians and the Colombians with the athleticism and depth that both those teams have.
So we'll take another look at the Australian offensive line. A little bit different from what we've seen in the past. Nice throw up the gut to number 18. That's Sage Lovell. And a big shot. That's going to float. A lot of players under the disc. And it's Germany that gets the D. Probably not quite what Australia was looking for with that throw.
That was Katie Holhorst. She had perfect position on the defense and was able to knock the disc down.
Throw out to the sideline and an inside flick. But it's picked off by Australia. That's number 18, Sage Lovell. Great D. She was playing some great offense before. Throw it to the sideline, and she's going to look for the deep shot again. It's fading to the break side, and just a little bit too much. We were seeing the same issue in the game previous with Japan. They were throwing those flicks, starting out on the open side, but a little bit of the open edge was pushing the disc downwind onto the break side and a little bit out of the reach of the receiver. So Australia is going to have to sort that out if they want to keep looking at that throw. Germany with a huck out to the middle of the field. That's number 6, Denise Wolny. And another throw out into space. No coverage on Lucy Wiedmeyer.
That was a perfect throw by the Germans. That's sort of, we saw the Australians the other end throwing what are same lane hucks. It's the hardest throw as a receiver when the disc is coming over your shoulder, over your head, and you're trying to read it. And the Germans were throwing to someone into open space where they could run onto it. It's a much easier disc for the receiver to read, and they had 2 perfect throws to space that were perfectly executed. So again, another break for the Germans. Nice D, and then easy, clean offense down the field.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's 3 goals in a row for Germany, really stunning this Australia squad. David, if you're the coach right now, what are you telling the Australian team?
I think it's part of it. If I'm their coach, is just saying to take a deep breath. You know, we're getting discs. We're able to move the disc a little bit. There's some pressure, but just be patient with the disc. Don't feel that you have to throw it into the end zone. It's our first game. Take a deep breath and just keep getting your legs under you. So keep running. And you sort of were. It's early on in the game. Don't get worried about being down. Now's a good time to hold, though. This is an important point for them. Just maintain the disc, make solid throws, and let's just go down the field. We don't have to huck it to the end zone. Let's just hold on to the disc and value it.
I think that would be very good advice for these ladies right now.
It's always easier said than done when you've got people running down you from the other end that are trying to make you do the exact opposite, but we'll see how they do.
So Australia setting up in a vertical fairly deep from the handlers. Number 40 there, not seeing anything that she likes. That's Mabel Eldred.
And that's a stall down.
Stall down. Not a lot of organization from the Australian team and a lot of pressure from the German defense. So Germany going to get another chance to break, third break in a row. Charlotte Shaw dictating what she wants to see, but tries to throw that high release. It's just going to get pushed down. It's not that windy, but it's just enough to affect the throws.
It doesn't. It feels like the wind's going up and down a little bit. So when you do throw that throw where it's not rotating a lot, you're just throwing it into space in front of the receiver, and it's easy for it to be pushed down.
A nice grab, a little bit of contact, but number 43 hangs on to it. We're right on the sideline. That's Annika Behrendt with the disc. And a break out to the middle. Germany giving themselves a little bit more yardage to work with. And that's right into the end zone. Lara Ruman, and that's their third break in a row.
So right now, the German women are just not letting the Australians do anything with the disc. And further, the handlers on Australia are having trouble. It looked like on that play, they really didn't have another handler back for a reset. So they got up high. She made sort of the common mistake of, instead of looking at one player who's close to you and really focusing on them, she was doing sort of look at someone for a second, someone else for a second, and before you know it, she's at 10 seconds and has nothing and doesn't even get a chance to get a throwaway. So it'll be interesting to watch the game and just see the kind of offense that Australia is running. But I would say, given what's happening downfield, they need to have at least one other handler behind the disc for the resets, because right now they're getting no resets, which is making them throw into some difficult defense by the Germans. But kudos to the German. Downfield, they're really shutting down the throws. So the German women are really running well in the back.
I think we're seeing, we saw this a little bit of this from the German team at the beginning of the game yesterday against Canada. They were putting on a lot of pressure, but unfortunately they kind of took their foot off the pedal towards the mid end of the game. So hopefully they can keep going and keep putting this pressure on the Australian women. This is a very interesting matchup between the 4 and the 5 seed in the pool. This game matters. This game matters so much because they may see each other later in the tournament. They really need to sort each other out and set up what they need to do to win. So that's Rhea Carpenter, one of the returning players from the Australian team that went to Poland 2 years ago. A nice layout.
Her twin sister Shannon's on the team. We're hoping that we'll get a lineup where we can call a sister-to-sister twin throw, but it's not going to be on this point.
And a shot deep. Not enough behind that. But so Germany able to get their hand on it. That's number 6 from Germany. Denise Volny already racking up a few Ds this game. She's going to continue working hard. And a big throw. Fading a little bit, but a nice grab by Denise Wolney, but there's a little bit of traffic in the area and she runs into her own player. Unfortunate. It's really tough when the disc is coming in from the side like that and you really don't have the periphery to see what's happening behind you. So an unfortunate collision for sure, but we have a trainer on the field to check her out to make sure she's okay.
It is, when the disc's floating like that, you're coming down and all you're thinking about is catching that disc. And it looks like she caught feet with her teammate. And I don't know if she banged her head when she hit the ground or she's up. Oh, no, it's a foot or an ankle. It's ultimate. It's an ankle.
But helped off by a teammate and the trainer there. So she'll get some attention on the sideline. Germany to sub in another player for her. Hopefully she's okay. Hopefully we'll see her later in the tournament because she's been really important for this German D-line.
Certainly
so far.
The beginning of this game, she's been really a couple of times when they've turned the disc. She's been an integral part of them moving it down the field, so they don't want to lose her for too long if they can. Hopefully she's okay.
So Germany has put in Lulu Greffer in her place. We're right on the end zone line, looking to the break side, and that's a quick throw out to 67. That is Micah Thorner. And Germany really
So if I'm
the
Australian coach now, I'm taking a timeout. They really need to settle down and just, it looks like that's exactly what they're doing. Just time to take a break. Maybe not. So, no. Just this is always a good chance. The game's going on. It's not going your way. Germany, all the momentum is with them. And sometimes it's just the timeout is not necessarily to say much. It's just to stop the flow of the game and give your players a breather. They don't have a huge roster, but apparently, well, no, I guess they are. We've got Germans circling up, so I think they must have called a timeout. So if I'm Australia, we'll go with the easy one first. If you're Germany, you're like, keep running, women. Just keep running. They're making it very difficult for the Australians to move the disc. They're getting, difficult throws. If the throws aren't perfect, the Germans are there getting the defense, and then they're clinically working it up the field and taking advantage of those breaks. So if I'm Australia, I'm saying we're here. We've come a long way. Take a deep breath. Let's just play the way we know how we can play and start completing some passes.
And that really is what it is. I think Germany is putting a lot of pressure on Australia, but Australia, they need to think more about setting up their cuts. I think that'll change what is happening from their vertical stack a lot. I think the players need to be ready to have to work a little bit harder to get open. So sometimes that means an extra juke cut, a few extra more steps when they're going out before they come under, before a hard turn, and that's going to get them, give them the ability to shake free and create a little bit more separation, because Germany has been right on their tails so far. So we just need to see a little bit more conviction from this Australian team. They're playing a little nervous right now, I think. So that's what we need to see.
I'd like to see Kaya Wea out there for Australia, number 16. The first 3 points, she was getting open almost every cut she made. She's apparently plays defense predominantly, but she was the one player that I noticed that was just getting open pretty much every time, and it looks like she's actually out there on offense, so that should be good. So on this point, have a look for number 16 making the initiating cuts, because she was getting open the first couple points of the game.
The Australian coach taking a little bit of time to really make sure her line is called. We have our game advisors out there signaling that they're running out of time and that the pull has to go up. Australia taking a few extra passes, and Germany comes out with a zone.
Very interesting. They were winning with their legs, but they've just changed things up.
And this might be something that'll change the wind for Australia here. That's number 40 on the sideline, Mabel Eldred.
Oh, and Kaya Wea with a great layout catch there.
Zoe O'Connor. Out to Itoyo. That's the other Carpenter, Shannon Carpenter, one of the twins. Looking towards the end zone, and she tries to thread it between two German defenders, a little bit too much zip, and it's going to go right out the side of the field.
Oh, that is so frustrating as a coach. You work it patiently all the way down the field. You get into the red zone near the end zone, and I think she was open. I think just the throw wasn't executed. It needed to have a little bit of edge on it, and she threw it straight, and her teammate wasn't able to catch up to it. I'm really questioning the Germans playing that zone. They had been dominating the game playing person defense. I'm not sure why you would switch up to that. But they got the disc.
And we can see right now Germany in an unfortunate turnover, but the German cutters there, they were really striking deep before they came under and just going right around their Australian defender. So I think that is something Australia, especially the Australian coaches, if they can see that and tell their players they just need to use their legs a little bit more. But Australia Holly Reeve with the disc, looks for the inside flick, and it floats, but Kaiawea picks it up. Right on the end zone line, she's looking back for Holly Reeve, and she's open straight across, but looked off for the inside flick. An unfavorable decision, if you ask me, David, but maybe she didn't think that she had a big enough window.
I'm not sure. Kaiawea made a great dump and cut hard across the middle and was open for, it wasn't going to be a score, but she was going to be wide open on the end zone line. So, but easy to second guess decision sitting up here in the booth.
So we see the German team back on offense. 81, the striker Malween Luter, and going deep again. Quick movement. That's Franco with the disc. And unfortunate, Australia gets another chance. Carpenter puts it out to Holly Reeve. She runs it down. Lots of time. Maybe a chance for a timeout there, I would say, but we're going to put it into the end zone. And a Mac.
But she continued through. Again, another Mac knocking the disc, and it stayed up, but she was able to follow through and finish off the defense that she started.
And I think that's where we can say that the wind is playing into this game. It's not really enough to change the thrower's ability, but it is just enough if you try and go for a D and you don't hit it down or catch it, there is going to be a chance for a second effort.
Yeah, the wind will pop the disc up.
Back to the middle to Franca, and she calls a timeout.
Yeah, that's a fairly long point we've had here, and I think that's a good call for the Germans. They just need to reset, take a deep breath. They've been playing a bunch of defense, set up a nice play to get the disc moving, and they've been clinical, that defensive line, when they've gotten the turnovers getting back. So take a breath. And the Australians are going to, okay, now we've had two chances. Was it three maybe, that they've had right near the end zone to get it in and haven't been able to score. So now they've got to dig in. You know, if you were the player that made an errant pass or whatever, you got to dig in and say, okay, I'm going to help my teammates. I'm going to get us this disc back. So both teams with motivation. It's 5-1 right now. The Australians really need to get this disc back, or this game's going to be completely out of hand for them.
And I think we're seeing a little bit messier ultimate in this game. There have been a lot of turnovers, a lot of, I would say, throwing choices that maybe aren't the most favorable, maybe not the best choice, not the most thought through. I think something that both teams could benefit from would be to be playing a little bit more reserved. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that's going to be very important further down in the tournament. We were, again, talking about this earlier, but some of these mistakes, if Australia makes a mistake, then Germany might not capitalize on the first pass, but Team USA will, or Colombia will, or Canada will. So this is the chance for both teams to settle down and really collect themselves and think about what the rest of the tournament looks like for them and how they can improve. Yeah,
there definitely need to, there's a valuing the disc, and it can be so, you look up and you've got the disc and you see someone streaking, and particularly in juniors, you get really excited. How do you keep the disc? Is that my throw? Is that a throw I can make?
And now we saw Australia come out with a little bit of a junk zone right there. They sat Kaiawea deep, and so she stopped any first pull play that might be a strike. But Australia's broken off. Now they're playing person defense, and a run through D from Holly Reeve for yards. Australia is going to pick up round about the brick mark with another chance for this offensive line to score a goal.
So Miriam Downey's picking up the disc, and let's see if they really value the disc here. Just make sure they make a nice, there we go, first open pass.
Holly Reeve looking back to Downey. High release backhand. There's a big space in the break side, but that's a D from Luter. That's Malween Luter. And that inside flick, especially when it's floaty up high, the high release inside flick, very low percentage throw in the end zone.
That was a tired throw. one thing you can see in throwers is when they start to get tired, they stop bending their legs. It's tiring to bend your leg, but to throw the disc with any sort of force, you need to bend your leg, and that was just a tire throw that needed to be forced into a space, wasn't strong enough, and was D'd. Now they've tripled the distance they have to go. We'll see what they can do.
Holly Reeve to Kaya. Kaya Wea, that was
Didn't
a nice
we start
throw.
talking about Kaya Wea? Said she needed to be an important part at this point.
We did. You
that
sure
was
called it.
we always call that a hydro. It's like everyone's so tired, just please throw it down into the end zone. And sometimes that can be a problem. In that case, it worked out. So her teammates are very happy with that throw, and Kaya was able to pull it in the end zone there. Again, I would just say that was a long point. Kaya Wea was an integral part of that for the Australians. If they're going to be successful, I think they need to, she can't play every point, but they need to, particularly when they're on offense, look for her because she's getting consistently open and is tall and is able to come, seems to be able to come down with the disc.
And it does look like her and Holly Reeve are going to go back on the field. I think that's probably a good coaching call. As long as they're not too tired, I would anticipate that Australia is going to try and put out another zone here, similar to that junkie. It was sort of a bracket sandwich look with a deep and then the three of the receiver coverage players playing under. So they had Kaya Wea sitting deep. If any German player was going to go deep, she would pick them up, as well as hard under coverage on the other players. So I anticipate we'll see something similar, especially since we have a few players here after playing that long point going back out there.
Yeah, I think you're right, Naomi. I think the person defense hasn't worked well for them. So, and that's exactly what they've done. They're into a very flat zone, picking away the long undercuts.
It's a nice throw from Germany, though. Out to the sideline. I think Australia would be good to set up tighter marks to sort of shut off the break side. And that is going to go out of bounds. Unfortunately for Lazaradou, it was a good look, but those high release throws, they're tough going upwind. It just faded a little bit out of bounds. And here we go. Australia has a chance. A lot of contact on the mark here.
That was a hard mark by Eva Mueller on that play.
I'm not sure that that number 1 Carpenter called a contact, but Kaya Wea comes out with a grab and a huge layout, but unfortunately that downwind back corner just pushes the disc a little bit out of the reach of that player.
I love the energy. She's getting huge props from her teammates for the layout bid. She was a little bit short on it, but her teammates really valuing the effort that she made to try and pull that one in. Again, Kaya Wea is down there. She's in the middle of everything. They just need to be patient once they get down to the end zone, particularly on this, on what's a possible break point, to really make sure they value the disc when they get it.
Germany breaks through that cup. Eva Mueller looking to slice through it again. Back to the middle. And a throw out to the sideline. That's Franziska Meyer. Oh, and maybe a little bit of grip lock there.
That's a throw it, not throw it. Oh, shoot, I've let go of the disc. And you watch helplessly as the disc sails to the turf.
So Holly Reeve has a chance. Australia has a chance. That's Lucy Deller right outside the end zone. Back to Reeve. Looking to the break side. A huge throw to Kaya Wea. Can she keep it in?
Inbounds. Nope. A discussion is ensuing.
And this is something that we talked about yesterday. Game advisors coming into play there a little bit, calling it inbounds. That was a pretty wild throw, but an absolute amazing grab from Kaya Wea. Those are those two players that we were talking about. Kaya Wea, Holly Reeve, taking control at that point.
That was a great catch. And I have to say, it is one of the great things about the game advisors, particularly when you have two teams that are willing on sideline calls for something like that. The game advisors standing directly on the line is able to have a perfect view. Players are running, they're jumping, they're trying D, they're trying to catch. They weren't sure whether it was in or out of bounds. They looked to the game advisor who signaled in, and they both accepted the decision because they're not obliged to. They both teams said that's a point and showed great spirit there.
So now we have Germany.
Kaya Wee is getting a break. I think this is the first time she's been off in about 4 points.
I mean, a well-deserved break. We'll see what these Australian women can do. See if they can rack up another break. Germany at 5, Australia at 3, so they have to claw their way back in. But 5-3 sure looks a lot better than 5-1.
It sure does. 2 good points by the Australian women. Let's see if they can keep this going.
So the pull is going to stay inbounds on the sideline around the brick mark. Ava Mueller to pick up. Back into the middle. That's Lena Sheffer who took the middle spot. Australia employing their zone again. They have Ava Mueller in the middle trying to get open, breaking through the cup.
So if Germany's patient, they can work it through this zone. They've shown that they can do it, but they need to be patient and wait for the throws. The Australian women, the person defense wasn't working. They've gotten turns on the zone, so they'll probably stick with this until the Germans prove that they can work it all the way down and score, but they haven't shown that yet.
And I think especially with Ava Mueller in the backfield there against the zone, I would argue she's probably the most mature thrower I've seen so far. She has all the breaks. She has the high release, the low release. She's doing really well for this German team. So she's calling for the end zone right now, really dictating the throwing lanes for the German team. Back across to the middle.
So Australia's letting them reset. They're letting them reset. They're just trying to tempt them into throwing something up the middle that's covered, and so far the Germans haven't bit. They've been very patient, resetting and waiting for lanes to open up when they're able to move the disc up the field.
And a big throw just out of the reach.
And I spoke too soon.
I have to say, I think Australia has to break out of that zone a little bit earlier. I know that their zone defense has been more successful thus far than their person match defense, but I have to say, when they're in the end zone, when Germany is on the doorstep, and Ava Mueller has that disc, and with the exception of that one errant throw, she can put the disc wherever on the field that she wants. So I would suggest that Australia call off the zone a little bit sooner.
It'll be interesting to see. Oh, that's going to be a tricky one, yeah. Up in the wind, and it bladed away from the intended receiver. And are they trying to set it? Yep, they're setting up the zone again. They've set up the zone again.
Ava Mueller with the disc. There's that jam cut in the backfield. On the sideline, that's Luder. Back to the middle. And a huge blading throw. It's not going to work. That's the second try.
Same thing. I think if I were the Australian women, I might be tempted to throw someone on Ava Mueller person to person in the zone. Just do a zone +1 because she's so integral to them moving the disc that if you make it, when you're giving them easy resets to her and she's got a full arsenal of throws, it just makes it easier for them to work their way across, and then she's got throws up through the zone. But they've gotten the disc twice, so we can't argue with the result, but they've got a long way to go all the way down the field now.
It's going to float for a really long time, and that's a nice grab, nice read. That's number 12 in Australia. Good patience. We're back to Carpenter. Looking behind her for the reset. And a big throw, but it's picked off by 13 from Germany. That's Lazaridou. And I think, David, that's a good call. If I'm Australia right now, I throw a person on Ava Mueller. It's got many different names. In Toronto, we call it pest defense. When I was playing in Vancouver and Victoria, we called it assassin defense because you want to shut down that one player and really try and stop throws like this coming out into space. It's impossible for Australia to shut down those throws. So we're out to the far sideline, back with Lena Sheffer, back to Luder, looking towards the end zone, and a layout grab from Germany. That's a nice grab in a little bit of traffic. So Germany 6, Australia 3.
Well, again, it's the Mueller to Luder connection, which has been happening both in the Canadian game as well as here today. That was a very long point for both those teams. But I think ultimately Eva Mueller just has really strong throws, and when she's able to make throws like that and break down the defense, Australia had no chance of catching up on that point because the throw was so far behind the defense. The German women were working the disc well. They just had a couple of, again, it's the sort of end zone eyes. When you get down into that red zone near the end zone, it can be very tempting to try and finish it with one throw, and twice. I think Eva Mueller did it once, and one of the other German handlers did it, throwing it out the back of the end zone. With this wind, you really need to focus on throwing to someone coming back to the disc. And unfortunately, the Australian women were not able to take advantage of multiple breaks. They got it down close to the German end zone, but couldn't quite punch it in. So Germany able to stop the tide of breaks that Australia had been on. So now we'll see if the Australian women can hold and keep themselves in this game.
So it looks like an offside call. So Germany to repull. I believe that you have 2 chances per game after you're offside. The second time, it's a yardage penalty for the pulling team. So they have to start. The offensive team has a yardage advantage. So here we go again.
That one's onside. Good to see Denise Woolley back out there. She had gone off earlier, and that was her pull. That's a really nice pull, upwind. And look at that. No first throw from the Australians. Nice defense.
A little bit frantic, but she's able to get it off to Carpenter. Really, really stagnant in the stack.
Really stagnant in the stack. There was nothing going on in that stack. It looked like everyone was waiting for someone else to make the first cut. It's strange. Most of these teams you think by now would know who's making the initiating cut, but I don't know if the defense was just matched up perfectly on the right side and the person didn't initiate, but there was nothing going on there.
And a layout attempt by Wolny, but it's going to go back to Australia. We're looking towards the end zone. And, just out of the reach by Lucy Deller. We've seen her a lot, striking a lot. She's really been, her teammates are making her work really hard. All those throws downwind have been really far, and she's had to reach for them, lay out for them. I think that was one of the passes when it's low down and kind of coming in on an angle. It's almost easier to slow your legs down and set up a layout than to try and catch it at your ankles.
It is. That is the hardest. Running at full speed and trying to reach down to your ankles is the most. I think she got it back. Nice defense.
And some good switching D from Germany. Australia just outside the end zone. Looking at that open player. That's number 23 on Australia. Sophie Charnstam shakes free from any sort of defense, and Australia is back on the board. We're still within 2 here, folks.
That was good. That was nice. They needed that. They had a hold. They needed that hold. They had nothing to start with, but they were able to get the disc back on defense and then closer to the end zone. And then, again, that patience, just waiting for an easy throw, and it was someone coming back to the disc and a completely uncontested throw. That was good, patient offense by the Australian women after getting the disc back on D. I'm guessing that we're going to see Kaya Wea back out here on defense. Maybe it's just me, given how she was dominating earlier, but I don't know whether they had put her back in on a few points just to get them back in it. Now they're going to go back to their standard sets. But we'll see. Certainly Holly Reeve is back out to the pulls. She seems to be the puller of choice when they have that option.
Holly Reeve is clocking a lot of time on this during this game, and I think perhaps one of the issues about having a star player on your team like Holly Reeve or like Kaya Wea, and I would anticipate that's part of some of the stagnation we're seeing. You expect them to make the first cut, and when that doesn't happen, potentially because they're gassed. Oh, nice D from Australia. Sometimes that sets up a little bit of confusion when you're playing on offense. So hopefully we'll see something here. You see Holly Reeve initiating, streaking across the field. She's going to get the disc. Looking at the end zone, that's a blading throw. Not enough touch on that throw. A little bit upwind, a little bit too angled.
And I think the wind picked up just as she released it. So any imperfection in the release of her throw is going to be magnified by the wind. I think you're right, Naomi. I think on certainly an Australian team, they've got a couple of really go-to women. And I think you're right. It often happens when on a team when it's like that, and everyone else is expecting them to be the one to make the first cut. And if they don't, for whatever reason, because they're tired, because it's their fourth cut in a row, then you get stagnation.
And arguably, you can say the same thing about a thrower here, someone like Ava Mueller. She's expected to be able to, that's a tough break for her, and especially when you're getting high in the stall count, sometimes it's hard to get that off, but when it's your only option, you have to try and take the shot, try and muscle it through your mark, and sometimes it's a turnover, unfortunately.
So that was Shannon Carpenter with an unfortunate throwaway. That's legs. You can just see that some of these women are tired. When you throw a flick into the ground like that, that's because your leg is tired and you're not stepping out to make the throw. So the pace of this game, I think, is starting to catch up to the throwers on both of these teams, making it difficult. And here's Eva Mueller. We'll see what she's able to do with this one.
I agree. And I just want to call out at this point, number 69, Anna Anasevic is doing a really great job of playing handler defense out into space. Defense has no chance there. It goes out to Francisca Meyer, and a really nice throw by Lena Scheffer.
It was a great throw. It was the throws we've seen previously that have gone out the back of the end zone have been sort of floaty flat throws, and she put a nice edge on that one, knowing that it wouldn't sail, and was perfectly. The distance was perfect, and it was a relatively easy catch for her teammate. That was better by the German women. They were, they got a good throw up the field, were able to hold onto the disc, were patient, didn't try to do too much, and just waited for that opening. So we'll see if now their defense comes back out. This game has been going back and forth. We'll just see if the German can keep this momentum going.
And I do think Australia has picked up the pace a lot. I mean, I think that from the first few points, they just came out looking a little bit scared, and sort of the stagnation in the stack that really held them back. And unfortunately, they went down 4 breaks in a row, and that's really hard to dig yourself out of. I do think they've pulled up their shorts a little bit, and they're playing a lot harder with a lot more confidence, and taking a few more calculated risks, the right risks, and that's going to be something that's going to put them into this game. But they're going to have to start scoring goals.
They need to hold this. Yeah, they need to hold here. This they do not want to give up a break to go to halftime. 7-4 Germany.
And it looks like Germany is putting that zone back on. Looking upfield. That's Kirsten Banks with the disc. And an unfortunate turnover. Germany with the chance to break for half. That's Luder with the disc. All alone. Back to the middle. Charlotte Shaw.
Denise Wally is working for that disc.
And she is putting up a huge throw, and that's a nice D. Australia with the chance to hold here if they can work it all the way up the field. A lot of tight coverage. And again, good reaction by Luder there to not get involved in the play. Some players getting a little tangled. Nice read by Janacek, and a very nice around backhand throw.
Open side, see if the Australians take advantage. They've got,
That's a big throw. Can she get there? Yes, she can. Australia laying out for the goal. They hold off Germany. One more point. We're at 7-5.
That was nice. It shows you the value of that first break mark throw. It went out. They had 2 passes to the open side, and then, wow, I have to say, when she put up that throw, I wasn't convinced, but I guess she had a perfect line. It didn't have to float. She was able to throw it almost on a direct line to her teammate, who made a nice falling catch in the end zone to hold. So now out goes the defense. Now they've got to try and see if they can break one more to claw their way back into this game before half.
And I think that's the kind of thing, you know, you always talk about that game-changing play, that layout grab. Maybe that's what Australia needs to light a fire, to really get pumped up, maybe put another point on the board. We've got Kaya Wea out there, Holly Reeve, and who's the other one? Lucy Deller. Those are the three players that we've seen a lot from in the past. They're going out on defense, and I think, you know, if my calculations are correct, I think we could see another break very shortly.
We'll see what kind of zone. I'd be curious to see. They've had some success with the zone against the German women, so we'll see what they come down in. They've been getting really excellent pulls from Holly Reeve, so we'll see. It does set them up well to set up the zone, and that'll be a good one. She's put it up, and it's floating and sitting a little bit. They should be able to come down close to covering that.
So interesting. We have Kaya Wea up in front, a different zone this time, a four-person wall with a rabbit mark. Oh, and so close to that, getting a hand on that. Kaya Wea on the mark.
Oh.
This wall not really doing a ton to contain, but it doesn't matter. We've got a D from number 18. That's Sage Lovell, and Australia with another chance. I don't know about that throw. We've seen a few too many of those fading throws, not enough rotation to really get them where they need to go. But, and skied Holly Reeve, that's a nice D. We're right on the doorstep. 99, that's Janacek, but another D. Oh my goodness, these ladies.
That was an ill-advised throw. That's too bad. They had a nice D and had a chance. They were right on the line, just needed to be patient, and they've given the Germans another crack. And I hope they don't regret this.
Germany really off to the races here, but that's what happens when you get too excited, moving too quickly downwind. The flags are really starting to fly here. A little bit too much on that throw. So
now Australia has 70 yards to go instead of 1. But they've shown their ability to work the disc. We've got an injury timeout. Number 99, Mercedes Janacek, is coming out. She seems to be okay. Not sure what that was about. She's heading over to the trainer tent to have their trainer have a look.
These have been some long points, so it's potentially a hydration issue. She also has her knee taped up, so maybe she's getting that looked at. Hopefully she's okay coming off the field on her own volition. That's always good to see. Australia really has a long way to go here. Kaya Wea with the disc off on the sideline, back to the middle. Big inside shot, picked up by Lucy Deller. Waiting for Holly Reeve to get open.
Oh, and look,
she does
she's got
it.
Kaya Wea down there.
Lots of space. Kaya Wea in the
throw.
end zone. Not a problem.
Familiar refrain. We could see that one of those great plays. You can see it developing the whole way. Holly had it. She set up the throw, moved her mark over to the flick side, and then threw a big backhand down to Kaya Wea, who's a big target down there, and was able to pull that one in for the break.
And also a great few plays from that third in the trio. That's Lucy Deller. She's pretty tall to begin with, but she's got some great vertical. She's been picking off a lot of the throws up in the air, getting Ds, making high grabs, also laying out. She's got great speed, and she's really doing a lot for the Australians.
She certainly, the one throw she caught was not actually thrown to her. It was thrown to one of her teammates underneath, and it was a little bit too high, but she's got good field awareness, was able to see where the disc was going and helped out her teammate by making that catch. Then made a safe throw to Holly. So just smart heads-up play. Those three certainly are doing more than their share of work for the Australian women so far. It will be I sense a very long tournament for those three, and they will need to make sure they're getting lots of food and lots of drink and lots of sleep every night if the Australian women are going to have some success.
So Australia holding off the German women one more time. A little bit of a pull miscue. So now we have, looks like person defense, maybe a little bit junky with a poach. Very loose mark, not really holding that much of a force. Lena Sheffer gets it, throws up a big one, and a nice grab from Denise Volney out to space on the break side. Australia didn't really have a chance there. So that's 8 for Germany, 6 for Australia. That's going to take us into halftime. David, what do you think we're going to see moving into the second half?
Well, I think there the Australian went back to a person-to-person defense, and they got completely shredded. So if I were their coach, I'd say we're playing zone the rest of the game. We've been having some decent success. We've been getting the disc back. The Germans have had some success working it, but haven't been fully patient. And so if we're going to get the disc, if that's the way we get the disc, let's just play zone the rest of the way. So I'd be surprised if we saw any more person-to-person defense from the Australians.
And I think from what we've seen so far, I think they do have a couple of different zone looks, so it would be nice to see them maybe putting on a bit more of a rotation, so we're not seeing the same thing every time, because that gives Germany a chance to adapt and really figure it out. So it'll be good to see what they can do.
Yeah, I'd say that they played sort of a more traditional cup type zone, and then they had more of a flat cup, and it looked like they had more success when they were playing the flatter cup. So we'll see if that's we'll see what they do. Maybe they've got other looks that they haven't brought out yet. We'll see what happens in the second half.
We will see. Again, it's 8 for Germany, 6 for Australia. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll catch you after the halftime. Welcome back to the second half of the Australian women facing the German women. Australia 5th in this pool, Germany 4th in this pool. We are in Waterloo. This is the World Junior Ultimate Championships. We're on the showcase field sponsored by Cut Camps. Cut Camps is here all week running clinics for players and coaches. So thank you so much for coming here. Thank you for coming up to Toronto this year as well, putting on your first international camp. And so we're really grateful to have you here. So are these young players. Everyone looks forward to any sort of coaching that they can get. This is a great opportunity, especially for these international players, to get that. On the field right now, we have Australia at 6 points, Germany up at 8 points. Germany really taking command early in this game. They went up 5-1 up against Australia, but Australia able to clamber back and close the game to within 2. So we'll see what they do here in the second half. Australia starting on D. We've got the usual suspects, Holly Reeve with the pull. We've got Kaya Wea out there, Georgina Burchett, and a few others, and they're going to try and take down this German offense.
It'll be interesting to see what sort of spread they come down in, if they are coming down in zone, and it looks like they are. This is the zone they are actually more effective with. It's more of a flatter cup, giving them, the Germans, the resets back and forth, but trying to stop those gap throws. And it'll be interesting to see how patient the Germans can be, because that's what they need.
We've got a nice D. That's Georgina Burchett. Looking upfield to number 8, Lucy Deller. Great striker on this team. Number 7, that's Asaka Itoyo, able to seal out the defense, keeping it on the line. Unfortunately, a little bit out of the hands of Rhea Carpenter. So Ava Mueller's going to pick it up, and now Germany's going to have a second chance to score this goal.
So it looks like, again, they've gone back to the zone.
Nice D, Georgina Burchett.
Georgina with her second D on this point.
Same spot. Rhea Miller now Rhea Carpenter looking into the end zone. She's got Kaya, getting all tangled up in my words. Or Kaya Wea, and a big hammer. It's gonna work.
Wow.
Connects with Lucy Deller, and that's a break right out of the second half for Australia. That looks like a totally different team than what we saw at the beginning of the first half.
So much more confident than they were in the first half once they got the disc. It just looked like they're happier, they're having a good time. They got the disc, they were patient, and pulled out their first hammer of the game. In the perfect spot for it, perfectly executed for the score. So that zone, it worked. It was similar to the first half, Naomi. They were able to, the German women were able to work it. They're able to put it through, but they're going upwind, and twice they put the disc just a little bit too high. It sailed a little bit, and Georgina Burchett was able to come up with 2 Ds, and on the second one they were able to keep the disc and score. So I would expect they're now going, the German women will be going downwind, so we'll see whether the Australian women use the same flat zone or if they switch it up to a cup type zone, which is what they did in the first half. But I would be shocked if they didn't come down in a zone on this point, given the success they're having with it.
I absolutely agree, and I think I would say that it feels like Germany has more accomplished throwers. I think their throwers are a little bit more elite than what we're seeing on the Australian team. But because of that level of throwing, they're taking some risks that maybe they don't need to be taking instead of working it with their legs here. So we'll see what they can do. It's definitely
they're back to person defense, which is really surprising.
And an unfortunate turnover. That's part of that switching on defense. That strategy is really important sometimes, and almost.
So it's interesting because normally with whiff diff, if the play is not affected by the pick, it can stand, but they've chosen to bring the disc back, and I'm not sure why.
And maybe a bit of a high stall count. A nice grab from Australia. That's number 23, Chofi Charnstrom, I believe her second bucket of the day. And now we have a tie ball game.
Wow. At the beginning of the game, if you had told me this was going to be the score, I would not have believed you. I'm really surprised. The Germans are taking a timeout. They really need to regroup. They had this game completely under control. We're working the disc well. We're scoring almost at will, and now it's a tie game with 2 consecutive breaks from the Australians to start the second half.
And I'm in shock here, David. 5-1. Australia was losing 5-1. They were playing with their tails between their legs. They couldn't complete a pass. Germany was putting on some defensive pressure, but Australia, they weren't throwing, and somehow they brought out their D-line with a whole bunch of swagger, able to convert these breaks. I am so impressed.
And that was a great point for them, because they did not have any of their big stars out on that defensive point. You know, there's the notion that sometimes when you're playing defense, you're not supposed to score. So I think they used that point as a chance to throw at some of the players that aren't playing as much, giving their star players a break. And you know, we said we'd be shocked if they went to person. They did, and that's why we're not coaching, because the person-to-person defense, as it turned out, was very effective, and they took advantage of it and scored through to height. And Sophie Tjernström was tall enough to be able to make that catch. And here we are, tie game. And as we mentioned before, it's a critical game for both these teams, because there really are 4 teams fighting for 1 spot through to the power pools. And so these games among them are, if they want to be in the power pool, they can't lose any of these games, these teams. So we'll see whether the German women are able to regroup. And looks like some of their main offensive line is back out there. So we'll see what they can do on this point. Again, now they're going upwind, and there's a decent wind blowing down the field now. So he says, having been proven wrong, I would think they would put a zone on this point, given that the Germans are going upwind, but we'll see.
And we spoke a little bit about this yesterday. The German line, their top few players are so strong, but they're playing so much. And this early in the tournament,
that is a spectacular pull.
Oh, unfortunately going to roll out of bounds, but Australia still going to have a chance to set up. It looks like a zone.
That landed inbounds. That's going to be right. I guess where it went out of the back of the end zone. It may have rolled a little bit out from the side before it went out of bounds, but it's going to be pretty close to the sideline. That was a really, it's a classic. It's a roller pull. You hope that the receiving team has difficulty fielding it, which they did, and now Australia in great field position with the Germans pinned deep.
So we have,
and they're playing person defense.
They're playing person, but they have Kaiawea sitting deep. So if Germany was to look deep with the likes of Ava Mueller or Lena Scheffer, who's actually sitting quite deep right now, they have Kaiawea roaming the backfield, looking to pick off any big throws. Unfortunately, it's leaving a couple players open.
The problem with that strategy is there is always someone open for the Germans who's underneath.
And picked off. That's Shannon Carpenter.
Looks like there may be a call on the throw.
So that's a foul, uncontested. So it's going to go back to 66 on Germany. That's Pauline Kaling, and she's going to get another chance. Out to the sideline, Lena Scheffer looking upfield. Out to the sideline. We're really close to the sideline there with Rebecca Ryman. Back to Mueller. Big throw. It's going to float. Can Carpenter get there? And no, Lena Scheffer, a pillar in the end zone, uses her height and both hands to make sure she keeps that grab.
That was a nice roll. Lena Scheffer has been doing a lot of work back under the disc with working the disc with Ava Mueller in there. They sent her out deep, and she just had a height advantage. There was a tall Australian player coming who came a little bit too late, and she was able to it was a floaty pass. It was there for defense, but she read the disc perfectly and was in the right spot to make the catch for that point. I have to say, I'm very surprised that the Australians did not play a zone defense there. They've had success with it. They've had not as much success when they're playing person defense. And they did have They did have Kaiowea playing a deep role to take away those deep throws, but the deep throws are harder this direction, and it left one person continually open underneath, which the Germans exploited, and basically just walked the disc all the way down the field. So, interesting coaching decision that. But they know their players, they know what they're capable of, and what their strengths are. So that seemed like the best thing at the time.
So we get another chance to see this Australian offensive line, see what they can do. It's going to be a big, big downwind pull from Germany all the way into the end zone. But they're a little bit slow getting down. That's a nice low release throw from Australia. And again, we see that inside flick. It's not great. It's not going to complete. A little bit of contact, but Germany is okay. Schall to pick up the disc, out to the sideline. That's Franke looking back in the middle of the field. She's got Schall behind for the jam cut. Out to the sideline. And a big throw.
I'm not sure that's going to come back in bounds, and it's not. So it's, foul on the throw. Uncontested. That disc will come back to the Germans, and they will have another chance at that. Often when you see a throw like that that's so out of bounds or seems so unusually poor, often you'll look back and say, oh, that would be why.
Makes sense.
Her arm was hit when she released it. That has a tendency to make a throw go not where you want it to go. Everybody resetting. Disc back in.
Reset out to Schall. Schall and Franke doing a really good job together. Sending it back and forth, really using a lot of space. And a nice flick, really patient, but unfortunately just not enough gas in the tank. I do think that throw floated really nicely, but maybe just a little bit too fast for Franke.
She was working hard
exactly.
That point under getting. They Germans seem to run sort of a three-person handler flow. They keep their cutters deep and they wait for a strike, but they really work the disc around with their handlers, and she had worked hard that entire point getting open.
And an unfortunate short field turnover from Australia, just not quite watching the disc all the way into her hands. So Schall's going to be able to pick up here, flanked again, and a nice grab. We're right in the end zone, and that's a goal. That's number 28,
Actually,
Lara.
I think we've got to, travel. She was inside the end zone and didn't come back out to the goal line before she made the throw. And so the Australian player called her for traveling, so she'll bring it out to the line and put it back in.
Back to Schall. And unfortunately, sometimes with those calls, you can get violations because players haven't set properly. But we're back. Everyone needs to go back to where before the play happened. And all the way across the break side out to Franke. I feel like she deserved that goal.
I agree, Naomi. She worked so hard on that point all the way down the field. She was running her cuts hard, dishing the disc and taking off upfield. So that was a nice reward for her for all the hard work on that point.
And I think it's important to call out Franke and Schall in that point. We've talked a lot about some of the other handlers on the team who've been, doing a lot of work for the German women, but I think sometimes you have to get a fresh set of legs out there because you could really see how hard that handler core was working, using especially, we were talking about 3 women. In the past, we call that a handler dominator. They're doing all the work, and if you're going to run that sort of offense, you need to have fresh legs or a very good set of lungs on you.
Yeah, and they certainly did seem to be there. That was really solid offense from those women. And now they get a much-deserved break.
So we have the Australian offensive line out here again. We've got a tall presence in Asanovic. She was really good on the defensive line, so I'm interested to see what she does on the other side of the disc. Holly Reeve, as usual. We have a central handler in number 40, Mabel Eldridge. She's been a really mature presence in the backfield, and unfortunately that pull is not going to stay in bounds. It's going to give Australia a chance to set up their stack. They're a little bit tight, a little bit deep. I would say if I were in the position of the handler, I wouldn't quite like that setup, but they seem to be, tending to set up that way. So
it does look like that's their primary formation. They run a vertical stack. Holly Reeve.
That's a big throw and a nice D. Denise Volney has been absolutely devastating to this Australian team. That's maybe her 4th or 5th block, particularly in the deep space. She's been stellar.
She's been very good. She's winning battles with her legs. If she's really working hard and has been able to get open.
Inside shot. Shaw again, looking deep. Looking at Volney, unfortunate. She had to turn around a little bit.
Twice she turned around, the disc was coming right over her head, and she really couldn't get a good read on it, and then unfortunately bobbled the disc.
And a little bit too much on that break throw. I think a little bit too much of an IO edge pushed the disc out of the hands of number 7 there, I believe, Itoyo. Sorry about that. Unfortunate error, giving Germany another chance, but Holly Reeve gets the D again. Looking at the end zone, she's going to float one out. Can we get there? Yes, we can.
Perfect throw from Holly Reeve. That was a perfect throw, and the cut was set up beautifully by number 57, Rachel Joyce. She knew once Holly had the disc, she knew exactly where Holly would want to throw it and made a perfect cut to open space and Holly just threw it to open space and let Rachel run under it.
And that pair was actually 2 of the players who were in Poland together. They were both at the World Junior Ultimate Championships in 2016 on that Australian squad. So maybe that's a little bit of experience that they've had playing together.
Australia won't go away. The Germans keep putting a couple points up, and then Australia answers. It's 10-9. The Australians, as we said before, they were down early. They're over there. They're in their huddle. They're having a great time. They're laughing. They're smiling. I mean, it's what they're here for. It's a beautiful day. They're running around on grass, chasing a beautiful piece of floating plastic, competing against these women. It's just, honestly, who could ask for having more fun? They're here with all these other young adults their own age. They're having a blast in the residence. They're having fun at meals. They're cheering. They're building really great bonds. For some of them, they'll be playing with and against some of these women for the rest of their lives. So it's really fun to be a part of it.
We see Holly Reeve on the pull there, really billing a lot of minutes for this Australian team.
Here we are back with the flat zone. This is the zone that they've had the most success with in getting the Germans to turn the disc over. So we'll see if they're see what happens in this one.
Germany staying really close to the disc. 60. Oh, and so close. That's Itoyo again. But Germany might be off to the races here. It's Rebecca Ryman on the sideline, showing a lot of patience. Back to Ryman. She's really close to the sideline. Lena Scheffer. Ryman showing a lot of body control, keeping the disc in bounds. We're back to the middle. Ava Mueller muscles one through about 3 yellow shirts, gets it to Rebecca Ryman, and that's another goal for Germany. We are at 11-9.
That was nice. We just saw Eva Mueller. I'm not sure if we mentioned on this broadcast, but she is a she has dual citizenship, Australian and German. She lives, I think, certainly lives in Australia now. Is traveling and playing with the German team, but you can see her talking to some of the Australian women. It's clear that she's knows some of them. I know she played in Perth with the Australian under-24 team, so she has played with and against some of these women. That was just an absolute laser beam of a flick when it needed to be to Rebecca Ryman, who was open in the end zone, right through a cup, through two players, hard as it needed to be, and right into the gut of Rebecca for the score. That was nice offense by the Germans. And the reality is when you play zone, every now and then the other team just takes it apart. I still think that Australian, their best chance is to stick with the zone whenever they can. It's gotten them back into this game. It's kept them close in this game, and not to let 1 point sway them from that and go back to the person-to-person defense, which Germany has had great success against in this game.
So a little bit of a shorter pull. It's going to land on the sideline, looks like. Australia is going to take it. We're in the middle. Number 25, that's Zoe O'Connor. Back to Charnstrom. Tall player on this team. Unfortunately, the Australian player was just underneath the disc. It's so hard to tell where it's going to fall when you get trapped underneath. So Germany back on O. We see Shaw out there. She's really she's earned her spot on this defensive line. She's playing a lot of points now. She's been critical for some of the breaks that this German team has racked up. And that's a nice D. Maybe no contact, but definitely a phantom play. That's number 25 on Australia, Zoe O'Connor. She pulled in her defender with that play and the offender and made that play happen.
Oh,
and this is going to float nicely.
Wow.
Runs onto it. Is she in the end zone?
She
Looks
is.
Like it with the spike.
That was a 9.5 Hail Mary throw. She just threw it to the end zone, and Australia able to track it down for the point. That can be so frustrating when you're on the mark. You get to 9.5, and they throw up a Hail Mary, and not only is it completed, but it goes directly for a score. Australia will not go away. It's 11-10 Germany. They're still in this game, and I hate to talk about it again, but it'll be interesting to see. I do hope that in keeping this game competitive, they come down in some kind of a zone defense, because that's where they've had the most success. Holly Reeve out for the pull, so we know they're going to have a good pull. And now's they need a break. They need a break now. They're getting near the end of the game. They need a couple breaks to get ahead.
And I was just about to say this, looking a little bit strategic. We've got Germany at 11 and Australia at 10. We only have about 15 minutes left in this game, and there's still 8 points that could be played. So it's going to be a matter of who can score, who can catch it in the end zone more times than the other team can catch it in their end zone. So we have Ava Mueller with the disc.
Oh, wow, look, now we've got a 4-person cup. They've changed their look completely from what they've done previously.
And this 4-person wall looking a little tired, but enough to cause a turnover with Germany. So Australia is going to take it about at the brick mark, a little close to the sideline. That's Janacek with the disc. And Lucy Deller with a nice grab under pressure. Holly Reeves slashing across. There's a poach, but she still works around it. A lot of poaching, but Australia able to fight through.
There's a pick call.
And it's interesting. Germany really overloading the open side there, making it really hard for the Australian women to get open. There's only about maybe 10, 15 yards. If I'm Australia right now, I'm faking hard on the open side, looking to get a break around to the middle, just like that, so that they have a little bit more room to play with.
Yeah, German women are poaching the front of the end zone very well and taking away anything open there. The Australian women are going to need to be patient.
Deller floats one out, That's a nice grab, really aggressive grab by Georgina Burchett. And that's another point for Australia. So we are tied once again at 11s.
That was very, they had nothing coming to the front of the end zone. The German women had a really nice set of poaches across the front, making it very difficult. And so the Australian women took what they could get, which was a throw slightly over the top, and were able to score. And it looks like we have a German timeout now.
I think it actually may have been the Australian women who called that timeout. I would anticipate that the coach is calling that timeout so that they can put out their star D players again.
That's probably a good. That's probably right. That they want their best players to have a break and they can put them back out. It's a tie game. They're now upwind, pulling downwind with a chance to take the lead for the first time in the game. That's big for them.
I just still can't wrap my head around against that being down 5-1. Truly incredible. I believe we probably have about 10 minutes left in this game. 13 minutes left in this game. Germany going out on 0. And we talked about this a little bit at the start of the game, but yesterday Germany having a hard time keeping the pedal to the metal. It's tough. It's a long game of ultimate. It's a long week, but they're going to have to fight through this. They have to play the way that we saw them at the beginning of the game. Clinical offense, clear, strong cuts, strong defense, and that'll push them all the way through. I think right now what Australia is beating Germany with is just a little bit more grit.
I think you're right, Naomi. Clearly at the beginning of the game, the German women seemed to have no issues moving the disc. They had good, the throws were strong, and they worked the disc easily down the field the first few times and scored. And they've just, you know what, it's hard when you get tired. Throws, I've mentioned it earlier in the broadcast, and your legs get tired. And when your legs get tired, if you don't step properly with your throws suffer. And I think that may be part of it. We look out at the German. They've got their all-star. They've got their all-star offense out there. With Schaefer, Mueller, Wolny,
I believe that's
Luder and
yeah.
Luder. So I would look to Luder to strike, because that seemed to be what they were doing earlier in the game, is using her to spread the field out. So look for an early strike from Luder to get the disc down the field. And this is crunch time. Also
interesting, they've put out their defensive central handler in Charlotte Shaw out on this O-line. So I think that may be an anticipation of Australia coming down in another zone, just so that the German women have an extra handler in the back, and that's exactly what they've done. They've come out with that 4-person zone again, and now they have one extra handler to help break it. Germany is going to look to put it up into the middle. That's Lena Scheffer, back to Mueller. All the way across, that's Paulina Kaling.
So Wolny is very open deep, and it will be interesting to see if the Germans can resist the temptation to throw it.
It's a nice
because it's upwind, and that disc would float.
And there she is. And
a wee bobble, but she held on.
And I think that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier. That's Australia has to come off of that zone sooner, because if they're holding it all the way to the end zone and Germany has 2 people posted on either back corner, that deep can't stop both.
It's an easy score, and I agree. If at a certain point you've got to win, not strategically but with your legs and with determination and grit. Zone is strategic. It doesn't give the players an opportunity to really dig down and do that. So I agree with you, Naomi. I think it's surprising that they have done it consistently. They've played zone all the way to the end. And once or twice they did get a turn, but for the most part, I think that would be hard for that was too easy a score when you're at 11-all in a really important game.
But I think between the 4th and the 5th seed, this is exactly what we wanted to see. I was a little concerned at the beginning of the game, but now that we're at 12-11 for Germany, this is really, really exciting. So Germany set to pull. That's Franco with the pull.
Oh, and that's a short pull. We'll see if Australia is able to take advantage of that.
A little bit close.
Oh, Holly Reeve really wanted to throw it. Oh, and that might work.
Nice read. We're right on the doorstep. That's 25. Zoe O'Connor dishes it back. Holly Reed all the way across. That's one of the Carpenters. And Australia in sort of a loose stack, but it's gonna work. That goes to number 7. That's Itoyo, and Australia ties it back up again.
They will not go away. That was actually some nice offense by the Australians. Again, Holly Reeve with that long throw that was perfectly read by Zoe O'Connor, and then some good patience in the goal line waiting for an open throw. So here we are, 12 all. We've got just over 8 minutes left until cap.
And that throw from Reeve, it was bending a lot to the break side. Tough read from O'Connor, but she really scooped it up perfectly. I'm so impressed. She had a defender blowing at her full force as well, so that was a really impressive grab.
I think the one thing that's also changed a bit since earlier in the game is that it seems the Australians are connecting on more of their deep throws. They weren't at the beginning of the game. They were throwing them out the back. The receivers weren't able to catch up to them, and Holly Reeve, she, from the moment she had that dish she wanted to throw it deep, was just really setting up her mark to be able to throw it around her, and they've been able to connect and ultimately to score. So here we are, 12 all. 8 minutes to go. Germans with the disc.
Out to the sideline. That's Volney. Back up the line. Germans keeping it tight. And a nice grab, trailing edge grab from Rebecca Ryman. And that was very easy for the German women. I think they should probably take a look at using more of the field instead of, I think it's a coach's nightmare to see all those throws with only using 5 yards of the field. But a nice read and quick work by Germany.
And, we have credit to Pauline Kyling, who there made a really great up-the-line cut that really freed up that space to go down the field. Again, the Australian women were back into person defense, and at the risk of flogging something we flogged continually, I am surprised that they keep going back to person when they really don't have success. But there is something to be said for just changing the look, make the other team adapt to something different once they get a little bit comfortable, and I suppose that's the thinking. And but they do need a break. They're down a break right now. They need one break to get back in this game, so they need to hold, put out a good defensive line, and try and get that back. But obviously, first off, right now, they need to hold and make sure they score on this point. Big three are out there on offense, and we'll see how this goes. Nice pull from the Germans.
Very nice pull. Oh, and the German defense clamps on really quickly, and Mabel Eldred able to get that throw off, but the stress levels on the field right now are palpable. The German person defense is absolutely stifling. Holly Reeve throwing one out there just to get something up, but unfortunately the Australians just don't quite have the legs to get all the way to that disc. It was a nice throw out into space. I think maybe a player in the first point of the game could have been able to get there, but it's hot and they're tired, and this has been a very long game.
Yeah, it's been a long game. There were actually, that dropped right in between two Australian players who both had a chance, of one who's deep and came back, and the other but weren't able to get on to get back and get that disc.
Nice read by Volney, but unfortunately a miscue. Holly Reeve to pick up. She's looking straight at the end zone. Not a lot of options. Out to Eldred. Again, not a lot of options. They're going to pass back and forth. And a big shot out into space. I think just a little bit early
Yeah.
of a reach.
Just out of the reach of Miriam Downey. She just couldn't quite come up with it. Sometimes when you're trying to twist and read the disc, you can't. It's hard to jump, and it was just out of her reach. So now the Germans will get it back with another chance for a break. Australians really need to score this point, so they need to dig down here on defense and get this disc back. They're setting up in person-to-person defense.
But it looks like we have a few up on our closest sideline. We have Downey playing under defense, Kaya
and a nice
playing
switch
deep,
there.
and a good switch. That's good, very mature defense going on. It's going to make it that much harder for Germany to generate something upfield. Out to the middle, but now we have some blown coverage because Kaya Wea is sitting so far deep. Volney with the disc, looking deep. Out to Thorner. All the way across. Australia just out of reach. Back to Franca. Dish to Shaw. She's going to go up line, looking deep. Germany not really moving with their legs. Kaya Wea tips it, and it's enough. Australia's going to get another chance to move forward.
There's some tired women out there on both teams. There's a lot of running, a lot of work. Kaya Wea just got enough of that disc to tip it away from the German cutter.
Back
that was
to the
a
middle.
punt, I believe, from
I think so too.
From the Australians, just trying to get the disc down the field.
Franco with the disc. Nice coverage from Downey. Volney all the way alone on the sideline. Out to the middle. This poach in the deep lane is really leaving a lot of unders open for Germany. They just need to be patient to recognize where those are coming from. Nice grab by Brehart to keep it in bounds. Shaw working the whole field with Thorner, and that's a high throw. It's going to sail over the head of number 15. That's Thea Prince. So Australia, once again, they're going to take a chance, but they are looking so tired out there.
Both these teams, the players on the field are absolutely exhausted. So we'll see. This is when it really comes down to who's willing to do a little bit more to do what it takes to get this point, because both teams are really tired.
And Dee.
Oh, Franke.
Nice second effort, Dee. She's looking to the bank, but no one's there. Shaw, instinctual throw. Nice coverage from Asanovic. And a break shot, and so close, but just out of the reach of Zoe O'Connor. That's a goal. Germany now at 14 and Australia at 12. This is game point for Germany here. If they can score, they can seal out Australia.
We're going to see 7 new players from each team, I'm almost certain, because that point went on for so long. The players on that at the end were absolutely at the end of their ropes. Basically nothing left, but some good looks, and Franke was great. That was a really nice throw. She actually, despite her being exhausted, she had a good step with her off leg and made a nice throw around for the point. So let's see what, people coming over to the sidelines drinking a lot of water coming off there. So we're getting near the time cap. I guess we need to wait for the official. Haven't heard the official time cap whistle, but we're very close.
And I believe that's the whistle right there. So this will be the last point. Germany on defense, Australia on offense. That's Rhea Carpenter with the disc. And there's a call, maybe a pick call.
I think it's an uncontested foul on the mark.
There you go. So Australia now switching to horizontal, and it doesn't work for them.
They had nothing there. That's unfortunate.
So Germany is going to pick up the disc right on the sideline, about 10 yards. 10 yards outside of the end zone.
Germans with a chance. This is game point. They can score this to finish off the game. We'll see how they...
Greffer puts it out into the middle. That's a nice run on. Looking towards the end zone. Shoots it across.
Good patience by the Germans so far.
And that's
there
in.
We go.
And that is a win for Germany after taking a 5-1 lead over Australia. Very impressive comeback from the Australian women. This is really early in the tournament. It's Australia's first game, if I'm not mistaken. So this is going to be a good tournament for them. I can feel it. That's exactly what you would expect from the teams that are seated so closely together. You know it's going to be a close game. David, what do you think? What do you think about this game?
Well, it was a credit to the Australians. At the beginning of the game, I don't think we really thought that they would have a chance to be in this game. They did. They switched up their defenses a lot. They had some success with running a zone defense. They clearly run a lot of their. They have three players, two or three players that are going to be critical to their success, and so. It's going to be hard for them with the short roster that they have, but they had a good game against the Germans. That was fun to watch. It was a good spirited game, lots of camaraderie and smiles, along with the competitiveness. So a great game to watch, and these two teams are going to be fighting it out for the spot in the power pool. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Germany now clearly with a leg up. They've beaten one of the three other teams they need to be for that spot in the pool. So. Congratulations to the German women.
Absolutely. And thank you, David, for joining me on this stream. We'll see you again tomorrow. And thanks for everyone who tuned in to this Cut Camps sponsored showcase field. We are at the World Junior Ultimate Championships here in Waterloo. We've got another game coming at you in 15 minutes. It's a men's game. So we'll see you then. And signing off for now. Thanks a lot.
Okay, take care. We'll talk to you soon.